let's get this simulcast set up. It's not really a simulcast, I'm just simultaneously recording. Hello and welcome to another edition of L.I.F.T tutoring. I am actually going to be having this on the podcast, available through Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/L.I.F.T tutoring, and I'm going to have it available on YouTube. So I'm making the YouTube so that you can kind of see my facial expressions and what I'm talking about, what it is we're going to be talking about today. And I'm also making a podcast version so that if you don't have YouTube Red, hashtag not sponsored, YouTube Red allows you to listen to any YouTube video without having the actual video open, which is awesome for music and just listening to a bunch of different kinds of things without actually having your phone open or your computer open. Well, the phone really. So I'm making two of them on purpose. So if you see both of these, they're going to be uploaded at around the same time. The podcast will actually be uploaded first because I have to take the video off of the SD card and then load it up into YouTube. So if you're a first adopter, you'll be able to hear this through the podcast first. So good, go you. Before we get started with our video today, I just want to always let you know that this video is being sponsored by Estelle and Gustav. It's available at paperback on Amazon and also ebook. Go ahead and buy it. You can buy the paperback version and then get the ebook for only $3 rather than paying $8 for the ebook. So a grand total of $15. You'll have the ebook and the paperback book. And also just a reminder to like and subscribe. We've had all the people who have liked and subscribed on YouTube, thank you so much. You've done so much for the channel. We are really coming in closer to 100 subscribers. Couldn't have got there without you. And once we get to 100 subscribers, we'll be able to have our own URL on YouTube, which will take us to 1,000 subscribers so that we can monetize and so that all of that money can be used for educational purposes and helping to sustain L.I.F.T tutoring and help kids out who maybe wouldn't otherwise be able to afford it. All sorts of different possibilities here. So thank you to everybody who has liked and subscribed so far, and tell all your friends about it, especially if they are interested in kindergarten readiness or even just education in general. This is something for them. So today I want to talk about I wanted to speak on a topic that I don't often hear talked about. I don't often hear it talked about enough. I hear it talked about with parents among parents. I hear it talked about teachers amongst teachers, but I don't know if we've ever really sat down and had this conversation with each other. So my biggest thing is what I'm realizing is that I want to be able to create a space where parents and teachers can come down and sit and talk about serious things. And even though this is not necessarily a heavy topic, I think this is a beneficial topic that you as a parent can really take away something from this, and just, even if you already know it, you can be reminded that, we as parents and we as teachers are human beings too, right? So we really have to kind of remind ourselves that we're all in this together, especially when it has to do with the student. I'll say this till you're blue in the face, a triangle. It's a teacher-parent-student relationship. That's the only way that we can continue to grow as teachers is for our parents and our students to be in with us. And the only way parents can get the most out of the schooling is for them to be in with the teacher and the student. And the only way the student is going to progress is that they have that connection with the parent and the teacher. And obviously, you can have progression without one or the other, but it's not ideal. Okay, so as parent-teacher conferences are coming up, okay, there's 5 things I wanted to go over. Count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 things I wanted to go over for how you can really understand what can do best for your child moving forward. 5 things to remember. These are in no particular order. They're just in the order I wrote them down as they came out. Okay. So number 1, it is a new year for everybody. Okay. What do I mean when I say that? When it's a new year for everybody, not everything is going to be going smoothly. The teachers are still learning their students. You are still learning about how your schedule is fitting in with this new school year schedule. The teacher is figuring out how their schedule is fitting in with this new year's schedule. For elementary, I can guarantee you it's only September. Oh my goodness, September. It's September 21st. We are still really early into the year, and there are a lot of teachers who don't. They know who their students are, but their students are going to be ever changing. That's how life is, right? It's never going to just stay the same. There's always going to be growth, and growth may lead to new positive things, and growth may lead to new negative things. I actually found out that a student from way back today, I found out that they were getting involved in some things that I didn't think they would be getting involved in. Nothing heavy, nothing serious, but I just want to keep it as general as possible, so as not to give up any sort of confidence. But basically, things that would never have been acceptable with me, they started doing with the next teacher. So the student is, the students change. They change week to week. They sometimes change depending on what happened over the weekend, what happened on a Tuesday night, what happened on a Thursday night. They change based on Christmas break. I know all of my teachers can relate to this. All my fellow teachers can relate to this. The child that you left in December is not the child that came back in January. The bouncy ones are quiet. The quiet ones are bouncy. The bad ones, the ones who make poor choices, might now have gotten their stuff together and maybe tricking you or maybe not. The good ones are now testing things out. It's just it's ebbs and flows, right? Understand that it's a new year for everybody. So when you go in during your parent-teacher conference, understand that the teacher is getting to know your child. You know your child better than the teacher knows them, but that still doesn't mean that you can't take in what they're telling you, right? Okay. Number 2, your child's old teacher is not your child's new teacher. I'm going to say that one more time. Your child's old teacher is not your child's new teacher. Take it positively or take it negatively. I don't care how you take it. The fact is, they're not the same person. If you need to bring up, well, Miss Such and Such did this last year. Well, Mr. Such and Such did this last year. Well, I'm used to it being done a certain way. Well, my child didn't exhibit these behaviors when they were with Mr. or Mrs. Such and Such. Don't go in like that. All of us are different. Why would teachers be any different? Now, if there's things that you're noticing throughout the year that you want to make sure your child's teacher is doing that you really liked, that another teacher could be doing, they could be doing more of, the new teacher could be doing more of, that's one thing. That's all on a case-by-case basis. Teachers have different strategies. Teachers have different learning environments. You could have different, I've talked about this in other podcasts, you have different cultures within the culture of one school. Teachers can be teaching the same standards and have different strategies for how to get that standard across. The main goal, even though when I taught kindergarten, I had different strategies that people across the hall from me didn't have, that people across diagonally across the hall didn't have, next to me didn't have, but we all were working towards the same goal, and we all trusted that even though we were in different classrooms, we were getting our kids ready for first grade. That was the goal, to get them ready for first grade. Your child's teacher's goal is to get them ready for the next grade. They might not be doing things the way you're used to, and that's okay. If you have a question, ask it, but don't lead with, well, my child's teacher from last year did X, Y, and Z. Okay? Even if it's a negative, even if you really like what your current child's teacher is doing now, there's no reason to throw that other teacher under the bus. You don't know what was going on with that teacher last year. You don't know about that teacher's ins and outs of their life. And I know that personally, as people, we don't necessarily want our learning experience to constantly come up forever and ever and ever. They're learning experiences. That teacher might have been going through some stuff that we don't know. And just like we would hope to give any other occupation the benefit of the doubt, we definitely need to give teachers more benefit of the doubt because of all of the different hats that they wear and that they are helping to raise the next generation with 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. Okay, so it's a new year for everybody, number one, and your child's old teacher is not your child's new teacher. Okay, Number 3, your child's new teacher only knows what they've seen so far. Okay? Your child's new teacher may not know this from that when it comes to your child. They may only know what they've seen so far this year, and that's okay. You know your child. You've been around your child longer than their teacher has been around them. So if a teacher at a parent-teacher conference comes up to you as a parent and says, I've noticed that, we're going to say Jeremy. I've noticed that Jeremy is, we'll start with a positive, extremely motivated, and he really wants to please me. And you're like, wow, I didn't really see that at home. He didn't exhibit that last year, They're only talking about what they've seen so far, right? Or if they lead with a negative, I've noticed Jeremy has a lot of different interests, and sometimes those interests cause him not to pay attention as much as he should. Well, how would he be able to say that about Jeremy? Jeremy is one of the most academically gifted children I've ever had. Your teacher only knows what they've seen. Give them the benefit of the doubt. It is September 21st, 2018. Most schools that have been in session for less than a month. Okay? So if there's something that doesn't sound like my child, that's okay. You can say, well, okay, last year they didn't do that, but I appreciate you telling me what you've seen this year, and I'll make sure that I do X, Y, and Z so we can keep that triangle, right? So your child's new teacher only knows what they've seen. Give them the benefit of the doubt. You would not, if you were at another occupation and someone said, well, last year, and you're thinking, well, I just got here. I've only known what I've saw. I can study till I'm blue in the face, but if I've never met somebody before, I only know what I've seen, okay? So it is imperative that is understood from the beginning, and then that can establish a good foundation for a wonderful relationship going forward that will help out that triangle, okay? Number 4, what your child shows at home is not always what they show at school. What your child shows at home is not always what they show at school, and vice versa. Okay? I've had parents on both sides come into me. They come to me and tell me things. So we'll start with the positive. They've said, oh my goodness, I know this year's gonna be a struggle. My child's bad. My child's probably not gonna do this. You let me know if you need anything, because I know how my child is. 6 weeks into school, I still haven't seen this child that they're talking about, this mystery child that's out of nowhere not listening. I've seen this child attentive. I've seen this child reading, writing, doing their math, listening when we go outside for recess, knowing and learning their lunch number, standing in line, walking down the hallway, crisscross applesauce, hands in your lap. I've seen it all. But the parent told me I would be seeing something different. That does not mean that I haven't been paying attention. And that doesn't mean that the parent hasn't been paying attention. Children act differently in different environments. Children act differently when they're around 20 other children, and children are going to act differently when they're around mom and dad, and grandma and grandpa, and their first cousin, and their aunts and uncles. We know this as human beings, but somehow when it comes to education and parent-teacher relationships, we forget that this is a natural occurrence for all human beings. We all interact differently with people depending on situations that we're in. So education is no different. On the negative side, if your child is just the most stand-up child throughout the whole year, since they've been with you and everything, and since they were born, but in 6 weeks the teacher said, well, they're not necessarily listening, they're showing out, they're making poor choices. That doesn't mean that the teacher is out to get your child. It just means this is what they've seen. It goes back to number 3, they only know what they see. So what your child does at home is not always what they're going to do at school. This goes academically too. Your child might have been the most voracious reader that you know. And in class, the teacher is having trouble getting them motivated to do the curriculum and what they're doing. Instead of saying, well, my child never does that. They always are like this at home. They always are interested in learning. Say, what can we do to make sure that what I'm seeing at home can happen here in school as well? Instead of going into a defense, go into a helping hand to keep that triangle. Well, Miss Such and Such, well, Mr. White, I understand you're seeing this. I see something different at home. I'll talk to my child maybe. And you know what? I loved it when my parents brought their child with them to the conference. Because once that child saw, hey, so your mom tells me you're doing this at home, but you're not doing it here for me, or vice versa. And they could say, well, you're doing it here for Mr. White, but you're not doing it at home. That triggers a child. Oh my goodness, they talk. Okay, I'm gonna be on my P's and Q's. So that's number 4. Number 5. And it all leads up to this, okay? Build the communication now so that you can establish trust in the future. If you go into it not wanting to listen to anything that you perceive as negative, which really it's just a growth opportunity. It's not necessarily a negative, it's a growth opportunity, especially the early years of school. If you go into it and anything that your child's teacher mentions that is an opportunity for growth, if you take that defensively and say that teacher's out to get my child, they don't understand my child, help them understand your child. Help them get your child. Help them know what it is that triggers your child to make great choices and triggers your child to make poor choices. Help them know that your child is interested in X, Y, and Z. Don't try to do the teacher's job for them just like they do not want to do your job, your occupation, your parenting. Don't say, well, I think you should do it this way, but do offer up. Well, you know, my child's interested in this. Well, you know, last night was a little bit difficult because we had X, Y, and Z going on. Well, you know, we had just went out of town and she was complaining about this, or he was complaining about that. Or, you know, I just took them to Chuck E. Cheese and they really liked that one particular game and it had to do with this. And, you know, any feedback that you can give the teacher will be beneficial down the line. But if you automatically go in defensive about something, about a growth opportunity, then you are setting yourself up for a long, grueling year. It's September. You want the cleanest of the clean slate and the best foundation you can have for your child, because I can tell you right now, the parents that were in their children's corner and were in my corner for all of the years that I taught, their children were outstanding. I had other great students. I had other outstanding students. I had students that were self-motivated, all of that. But when I knew I could talk to a parent and say, look, you got to help me with this because I'm doing everything I can. They're showing that they're right there, but I need them to get to that little extra. They said, Mr. White, I got you. Here's some of the things we've been doing. Oh, that's great to know. They like that? I didn't know that. They never talk about that in class. The more established you can get with that, the better this year is going to be, and the better it's going to be for the rest of their schooling career, because you're going to have, at minimum, 12 teachers throughout your child's school year, schooling their academic career. Minimum. I know when you get into middle school and high school, it's 12 is a very low number, but 12 minimum. That's not counting for the people who take leave and then another substitute comes in. That's not counting. I'm saying if we would just have one new teacher a year, you're going to have to do this at least 12 times, where you're going to have to practice that trust every year over and over. And is this to say that all of us teachers are in it for absolutely right reasons and we are super passionate and we're always going to have that fire underneath us? No, we get tired. The system beats us down. And there are times when we feel like, even why are we doing what we're doing if we're going to take this backlash from every angle? But when you come across a teacher and you're willing to do that, that inspires them to continue doing what they're doing. I cannot tell you how grateful I am for the parents in my years of teaching that have worked with me, even the ones in Japan, and we didn't speak the same language, but they knew I had their child's best interest at heart and they wanted to know how to help their child out better. They came to me trusting, okay? That goes a long way in that. Even though we couldn't necessarily speak the same language, they felt my spirit and I got that across with them, even in my limited ability to speak conversational Japanese. So it's that way. if you can go into it with the mindset that, hey, I'm going to be positive about this. I'm not going to let last year dictate what happens this year, because that's not how business works necessarily. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Financing. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Future results are based upon the work that you're going to put in now. And if you are willing to put in the work now, then your future results have a chance to be better. And there's no, and that's with almost every occupation, most occupations that I can think of. So as you go into these parent-teacher conferences, keep an open mind. Don't be scared to speak up if you disagree, but just new year for everybody. Number 2, your child's old teacher is not your child's new teacher. Number 3, your child's new teacher only knows what they've seen so far. Number 4, what your child shows at home is not always what they're going to show at school and vice versa. And number 5, build the communication. We need to get back in this country to trusting each other. And, that's a whole different video that I'm sure a bunch of different podcasts can take hold of in any arena. But we need to get back, especially in education, where teachers trust parents and parents trust teachers. That will solve so many of what the problem is, because right now there's just so many other entities pulling parents, telling them what they need to be doing for their child and what's best, and it's not necessarily the teachers, and the teachers are being pulled in all sorts of random directions by the state and the districts and the politicians. But if we can build that relationship back to where we trust, I'm going to trust you to parent, you trust me to teach, and we're going to work on this together. We can help our kids so that in 20 years, you'll see some problems of society just disappear. We can do that. And it's going to take work, but that is where that foundation is going to start. I've heard it too much from both sides. Teachers talking about parents that just don't want to understand, and parents talking about how they just don't understand the school system, what's going on. You build that relationship back and you got something. So, hope that's been beneficial. I hope you've been able to get something from that, because that was, I wasn't planning on doing this today, but it got on my heart that I needed to do that, especially with parent-teacher conferences coming up. So remember to keep chasing your joy, develop a love for lifelong learning, and like and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video and in the next podcast. Have a good one.